Hi everyone, Fromark from Fromark Industries here, and I am back with another video. And this time I'm taking a bit of a different approach as I continue to experiment with the kind of content I can put out on this channel. But this time I'm on location from my storage unit, and in this episode of Fromark Talks I would like to talk about my diecast collection. My NASCAR 124 scale diecast collection. Maybe one day I'll get to the other diecasts, the smaller ones. But for now, it was hell getting all these out of the boxes and out of the storage. Now, I've been a NASCAR fan my entire life, so most of you who know me well would know that and shouldn't be too surprised that I have spent so much time and so much money collecting these things. And you'll notice today's episode is on location from my storage unit. And that is because when I got kicked out by my ex, I didn't have the room to continue to keep all of my stuff where I needed to keep it in one spot, so I needed a storage unit. And because of that, I only have several diecasts on display of the place I'm currently staying. Not really going in any specific order with these, but anyways, let's get started, folks. I'll go ahead and I'll start us off with the Dale Earnhardt collection. Now, this one here is the 1988 GM Goodwrench car that he drove. This would be the first Goodwrench car. And you'll notice this one is not an actual diecast per se. This is a model car that I put together last year. This one is my 1987 Dale's at the Senior Wrangler 124. And this thing goes for a lot of fucking money. I actually got a pretty good deal on it myself. But this is actually one of the few. I think they only reissued this a handful of times, and this is the original action issue from 1995. And even though there's like a couple thousand of these things in existence, you'd be surprised how much these damn things go for. Like I said, I caught a pretty good deal, and I couldn't pass up a good deal for a cool Dale car. This next one here is the 1996 Olympic Games car that Dale Earnhardt drove in the 1996 All-Star race. And this would be one of several special edition paint schemes he would drive in the All-Star races. I've actually got a couple of those, as you'll see next. Such as the 1997 All-Star race car, the Wheaties Goodwrench car that he drove. And I always thought this one looked pretty sharp, honestly. It really stands out. And here I've got the 1998 GM Goodwrench Plus car that Dale Earnhardt drove. Now, while this is actually the same from the same year and the same paint scheme almost that he drove to a 1998 Daytona 500 victory, the one that took 20 years of trying. But I always thought that car was pretty cool, and I used to race the hell out of it in NASCAR 99 on the PS1. The next one we have here is from the 2000 All-Star race, and Dale Earnhardt drove this really cool looking, out of the usual paint scheme, designed by some fancy artist named Peter Max, and this car just really pops. This car, oh man, this is my favorite Dale Senior paint scheme. Last up, I have the last car that Dale Earnhardt drove in his final race, the 2001 Daytona 500. And one way you can tell that is the Sonic logo on the quarter panel there, as he did not pick up that sponsor until 3 days before that 500. But it looks like a pretty sharp car, and it's a shame the circumstances around it, honestly. Next up, I have both of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s rookie cars that he drove in 1999 and 2000. And both of these are pretty cool looking ones. I always liked the old Budweiser scheme. I always thought the original DEI Budweiser car looked the best. Although one weird thing about the 99 one compared to the 2000 one is the 99 one doesn't have rookie stripes on the back, while the 2000 one does. But still, pretty sharp looking cars. Next up, I have the 1998 Pennzoil car driven by Darrell Waltrip. Yes, so when Dale Earnhardt, so in 1997, Dale Earnhardt started a cup team called Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. And they had already been doing some like other low tier racing before that, but they went full time in the Cup Series in 1998, and their driver was Steve Park. But he got hurt in his rookie season, and Darrell Waltrip actually drove the #1 Pennzoil car for a little while. So this is a pretty cool one. I actually bought this one off my ex-roommate, and one I've been looking forward to talking about because I've got a little bit of a story with this one. This is the 2003 Pennzoil car that's driven by Steve Park, and this was driven by Park in his last year with the team. And cool thing about this one, I got it autographed by Steve Park himself. I made a trip all the way from Ohio to North Carolina, and that was one of the things I did. I went to this battery store he said he owned when he was talking on the Dale Jr. podcast, and he was there. He was really cool to talk to for a minute, and he didn't care to take a picture with me and autograph my car. So next up is surprisingly the only Jeff Gordon car I have in my collection, and that is the 2001 Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny car that he drove. Now this one really stands out because it changes colors when you hold it up to the light a certain way, and even on track the original car popped pretty nice. It's just a shame that it popped the wall pretty early on in that race, and that's actually, as far as I know, that's the earliest NASCAR thing I can really remember immediately off the top of my head, was that 2001 Richmond race. Next up is the number 95 Procore car that Casey Kane drove for Levine Family Racing in his final season. And unfortunately, he didn't even get to finish the season out because of health problems. And so another one I've been looking forward to talking to for a good minute. I happen to be one of the lucky pickers out there who owns the Dogecoin car. That's right, I own a Doge-sponsored NASCAR. This thing is awesome, and I'm glad that this exists. And apparently, the value of this diecast shot through the roof since the time I bought it. I only paid $50 for it, and now I'm seeing all these outrageous prices on eBay for it now. I had one more Earnhardt diecast I almost forgot to mention here, and that's the Kerry Earnhardt Busch Series car that he drove in 2002. Now, he is the lesser remembered of the of Dale Earnhardt's sons, and he never really did too well in the Busch Series, unfortunately. He made a handful of Cup Series starts, but just never really caught on. His son Jeffrey Earnhardt competes in the now Xfinity Series. He was a Cup Series driver for a while, and he was a fourth generation Earnhardt. And the only other fourth generation NASCAR driver I can think of off the top of my head is Adam Petty. And I have a 1999 Busch Series Spree car. And this is another one that I got from my ex-roommate. And for the longest time I thought that the Spree that was on the car was actually the candy. And I love the candy. But no, apparently Spree actually means prepaid phone card. It was a company, or it was like a Sprint thing that the phone company Sprint did back in the day. I don't even think Sprint exists anymore. Also, another phone company that doesn't exist anymore, and another driver that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, is Kenny Irwin. I have the number 42 Bell South car that he drove for about half the season until he got killed at New Hampshire in 2000. Also, like the last driver I have the diecast of, Adam Petty, he got killed at New Hampshire the same year, but a couple of months prior. And speaking of 2000, I have this really cool, slick-looking Terry Labonte Kellogg's car that he drove that year. And I always thought this one looked cooler than the Cornflakes car that he drove. But there was a Cornflakes car that he drove 6 years later, and it's my most recent addition to the collection. And that's my number 44 Cornflakes car. Now this one's pretty slick looking, as when then young upstart Kyle Busch came into the Cup Series, started driving the number 5 Kellogg's car. Terry Labonte was pretty much on his way toward retirement. And so he drove some select races for Hendrick Motorsports, still driving a Kellogg's Monte Carlo. So that was pretty neat. I'm glad this neat little throwback exists. And this was in the days when the Darlington race didn't do throwback weekend, so this was pretty cool to see stuff like this when it was there every now and again. My next diecast here is also from the year 2000. This is a Dave Blaney number 93 Pontiac Grand Prix from his rookie season. So the next two diecasts I have here, the story behind it was I was in a thrift store one day and I walk over to the corner and they just have this huge stack of diecasts for like $5 a piece. And so I picked up this number 71 Dave Marcus Realtree Chevy from 1999, and this one was pretty cool looking. I mean, they're all pretty cool looking to me, otherwise I wouldn't have bought them. But the other one I bought that day was a Jeremy Mayfield 2000 Mobil 1 Ford Taurus, and this one's pretty cool too. Because I think all the Mobil 1 cars, no matter who's drove them, I think Mobil 1 paint schemes were pretty nice. Next up is this old school 1987 Darrell Waltrip Tide Ride that I got the 124 of, and this was actually one that Action, the company that was making the diecasts at the time, this is one that they put out to celebrate 400 wins with Chevrolet. I believe this one was win 200 for them, so they put out one for each 100, and it'd be cool if one day I could get around to getting the whole set. I'm getting close to the end here. The next one is the only Truck Series diecast I own, and this is a Justin Haley number 24 truck from his first win at, I can't remember off the top of my head where it was, but I actually have all three of Justin Haley's top series wins, as I also have the Xfinity Series first win from Talladega last year, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting to see if Lionel, the company that bought out Action, I was waiting to see if they would ever produce something like this, or any of the Colleague Racing cars. This Colleague Racing's the team that he drives for those who don't know. But I was waiting to see if they were going to put out any of their diecasts, and luckily this one was originally sold as like a promo item or something, and even though it was a little pricey, I went ahead and said fuck it. Next up I have the number 77 FOE car that Justin Haley won his first Cup Series win in, and only his second start. Or, no, that might have been his third start. I'll have to double check. I'm sure the comments section will. But anyway, he drove this one to a surprise victory in a car that had no business winning a race in the first place. They lucked into it off of a really bizarre weather situation that happened down at Daytona in 2019. And he just happened to be in the lead when they called the race for weather, and it was pretty cool. And I remember the night before joking to my ex-roommate, I was like, what if the Spire Motorsports car wins a race? And sure enough, that's what happened. Next up is another number 77 car I have. This is a Dave Blaney Jasper engines and transmissions car that my good friend Justin actually got me for Christmas a couple of years ago. Next to last here, I've got the number 21 Trevor Bayne Daytona 500 raced win car. Oh, and it's autographed. This car, folks, this car is beautiful, and that 2011 Daytona 500 was an incredible race to watch. The entire 2011 season stands out in my books and is definitely a personal favorite, and it is one that I will immediately recommend to anybody who wants to go back and watch a NASCAR season from the beginning. I recommend 2011, because it had it all. First time winners, a really close championship battle, and it was perfect. And last but not least, I have the number 25 GoDaddy.com Impala that Brad Keselowski drove in his rookie season, and he drove this part-time for Hendrick Motorsports in 2009, the same year he would get his first win. And God, I would love to get my hands on that number 09 diecast that he drove for Phoenix Racing that same year, because that one goes for way too much money. But I'm glad I at least got one of the rookie cars, and I'm not a big Keselowski fan, but I do really like this car. But anyways, folks, that'll do it for me here. If you've got any cool diecast stories, leave them in the comments below. Like, subscribe, any of that good stuff if you want to. I sure appreciate it. Anyways, this is Fromark from Fromark Industries signing off. Before I go, a quick update.
A couple of days after filming that, I finished putting together this model car.